was born to preach the gospel. I was born to preach the gospel, and I sure do love my job. Yeah. I was born to preach the gospel. I was born to preach the gospel. I was born to preach the gospel. And I sure do love my job. Yeah. Yes, I really love my job. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. Oh, I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. Yes, I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. Get firmly rooted. So let's get firmly rooted. Let's get firmly rooted. So let's get firmly rooted. Oh, I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I was born to preach the gospel. I was born to preach the gospel. I was born to preach the gospel. And I sure do love my job. Yeah. I was born to preach the gospel. I was born to preach the gospel. I'm born to preach the gospel. And I sure do love my job. Yeah. Yes, I really love my job. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. Oh, I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. Yes, I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. Get firmly rooted. So let's get firmly rooted. Let's get firmly rooted. So let's get firmly rooted. Oh, I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. Let's get firmly rooted. Firmly rooted. Let's get firmly rooted. Yeshua, 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 Yeshua. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. We are disciples that make disciples that make disciples. We are disciples that make disciples that make disciples. We are disciples that make disciples that make disciples. Let's keep firmly rooted. Firmly rooted.
Good morning, Rooted Men. I had a little problem with the stream there. It crashed in the middle. I just decided to let the intro play over again, so I do apologize. Got a few people on this morning. Ken Gooch, good morning, fellow brothers in arms. Chris Conley, morning all. Chuck B, good morning, firmly rooted men. Blessings on this beautiful Friday. Amen. Steve Ponwerski, good morning. Bert Reggiani, good morning, gentlemen. And Tom Donnelly, good morning, Elder Glen and Rooted Men. You're live on Rumble. Awesome. And I believe Pastor Tom was in Florence, Kentucky a few minutes ago, 20 minutes ago. So he's headed down to Greendale, I believe. So we'll jump into it. Today's verses are Proverbs 17, 1 through 5. Better a dry crust with peace and quiet than a house full of feasting with strife. A prudent servant will rule over a disgraceful son and will share the inheritance as one of the family. The crucible for silver and the furnace for gold, but the Lord tests the heart. A wicked person listens to deceitful lips. A liar pays attention to a destructive tongue. Whoever mocks the poor shows contempt for their maker. Whoever gloats over disaster will not go unpunished. So starting at the first verse, better a dry crust with peace and quiet than a house full of feasting with strife. So just a dry crust, meaning mediocre food, with peace and with quiet. That's better than a house full of feasting with strife. Strife is, contempt, argument, hard feelings. It's better to have that dry crust and eat mediocre food and have peace in your heart and have quiet than it is to live with that, live in contempt, to live with that constant argument. A prudent servant will rule over a disgraceful son and will share the inheritance as one of the family. That happened. A prudent servant, someone that was just a good person, had good character. There were times where they would receive inheritance. If there was an only son, if it was a disgraceful son, if that father didn't want to leave that legacy or pass on to that disgraceful son, a prudent servant, a good and faithful servant, someone that had always been operating in best interest of the family, would share the inheritance. They would rule over the disgraceful son. Tom had mentioned on another devotion that the Jewish person in leadership of faith would help determine inheritance. And this is one thing that we would see, if you had a God-fearing servant that really played a large part of that family, they would end up with inheritance just as if they were born as part of the family. Verse 3, the crucible for silver and furnace for gold, but the Lord tests the heart. It's kind of a metaphor comparing the Lord to the crucible or the furnace. As the furnace would melt down gold to find out its purity. That's what the Lord is doing for us. It's why it's important for us to not just say we believe, but to truly believe, to believe from your heart and understand what that means, to practice. Because the Lord is able to see our hearts, and he's the one that does the measuring. He's the only one that does the measuring. A wicked person listens to deceitful lips. A liar pays attention to a destructive tongue. A wicked person is not a truthful person. They have hate in their heart. A liar, again, not a truthful person. They have hate in their heart. As they're listening, as they're paying attention, the things that they're taking in, they're listening to deceit. They're listening. They're paying attention for a destructive tongue. Their goal isn't to hear truth. Their goal isn't for love. They're wicked in their heart. They're untruthful. They're paying attention to the wrong things. They're not paying attention to the Lord. They're not listening to the Lord. They're listening to deceitful lips, destructive tongue. And what is that? It's Satan. They're spending their life listening to Satan. And that's why they have hate in their heart. That's what makes them wicked. That's what's causing them to be simply a liar. And lastly, whoever mocks the poor shows contempt for their maker. Whoever gloats over disaster will not go unpunished. Mocking the poor, mocking someone simply because they're poor. You know, God's taught us to help, to love. At no point has God shown us or taught us to mock or make fun of anyone who has less. You know, God will make sure we have what we need. He'll take us when it's time to take us, and he'll allow us here when it's our time to be here. You know, mocking someone because they're poor, again, showing contempt for the maker. We're made in his image, you know, so mocking anyone that's made in his image is showing contempt. Whoever gloats over disaster will not go unpunished. Gloating, period. You know, we're taught to be humble. We're taught to be humble. If we're gonna gloat, if we're gonna do something in that direction, you know, we should be praising, we should be worshiping. We shouldn't be gloating. You know, gloating is personal. Gloating is me. We should be living for that bigger purpose, and that's what we're doing here together as rooted men. We're showing each other how to live out the purpose in those words. So gloating over disaster will not go unpunished. If we're gloating, who are we living for? And if we go back a couple verses and the Lord's testing our heart, he sees what we're living for. All right. I hope I did a good job there. Hey, thank you, Pastor Tom. He says it was a good job. All right. I hope this devotion was a blessing for you gents today, and I will see you back on at 9 o'clock. Peace.